Hello everybody, my name is CJ, I'm your local friendly technology addict, and this is the Tech Addict's Attic. So, I'm just trying to stay awake. It's like 1:30 in the morning here. I did these two videos, right? And I finished them up. I'm uploading them to YouTube. Uploading with my AT&T internet here at the house. I hate the fact that we have no competition here. It's AT&T on one hand or Comcast on the other. They both suck, they both know it, and they both don't care. Because they know that we are captive. We have no alternative other than simply not to use internet. Or to use T-Mobile's internet. So, I'm sitting here waiting on these two uploads, and I forget that it means that I'm out of space on this LG G5. I spend 15 minutes talking basically to myself. Because what happens is once the space is all filled up, it can't finalize the file, and the file becomes unreadable, and even if I upload it to YouTube anyway, YouTube cannot salvage it. It becomes unprocessable. So, I wind up basically wasting my time. And here I am trying to redo the video. So, the video that I lost was basically what I hate about this phone. And it's a short list, so let me get right into it. First off, the so-so stuff, okay? Well, so-so, the screen brightness. I've got the screen all the way as fully bright as it'll go, and this is the, this is what we get. This is the brightness, which really you can't tell anything on the camera up there. Out in the daylight, if I get the sunlight shining down on it, I find I've got to cover the screen a little bit. They say it's 500 nits. I don't know what a nit is. I know it's a level of brightness, but I don't know, or a measurement of brightness, but I don't know how many nits is this? I have no idea. I have nothing with which to compare. I don't have a reference. So what is 500 nits? Apparently this is 500 nits, and I'm looking at it. It's pretty average. If this is 500 nits, you know what? It's kind of like those little LED flashlights that you buy from Amazon. Straight from China, $3.50 shipped to your door, right? They tell you it's 350 lumens. No, it's 750 lumens. No, it's 2,000 lumens. Whatever. We all know you're not going to get what they advertise. And I think in this case, they probably think that it's 500 nits. Whatever a nit is, here again, with no reference. But if that's 500 nits, then 500 nits is nothing. 500 nits is pretty average. If I've got to cover the screen to shield the sun from, or shield it from the sun so I can read it in the daylight, then it's not bright enough. Now, my AMOLED screen of my Note 4, my Galaxy Note 4, actually was bright enough I could see it in the sunlight. And when I got out into full sun on a really bright day, the screen colors would amplify, it would oversaturate. And I would wind up having an easier time reading the screen, but color was way off, which who cares? I mean, you're just trying to read a screen. But if what you're trying to read has a certain color element to it, maybe you're trying to read, I don't know, a blueprint or something with an online map or something, you may have some difficulty getting the colors out that way. But that's a different phone altogether. This phone, it's bright enough to see it in the sunlight if you shield it a little bit, and I don't think that that's too much to ask, just simply covering it with your hand so you can see it. It's a common, pretty standard thing to do these days, so I don't think it's unacceptable. I don't think that it's unfair to ask people to simply deal with the sun by, covering it. So screen brightness is so-so. It's average. It's on par with other devices for the most part, other LCD in-plane switching devices. With an AMOLED, your AMOLED's going to win. If you can get an AMOLED device, if you really, really, really have to have full brightness out in the sunlight, don't get this, get an AMOLED. But if you're like me and you don't really use it outside that much, you don't really care, this will be a fine phone. Camera quality. I did the other video where, we're looking at things like these Post-its and the boxes and whatnot. The color correction, the color accuracy is pretty spot on if you get the white balance right. I'm using a 2700 Kelvin lamp and a 3200 Kelvin lamp. And between the two of them, the phone actually balances out properly at the daylight setting as opposed to a fluorescent or incandescent. Usually I have to pick one of those two, but this time I had to pick daylight, which is very rare. But it actually did pretty close color correction with that setting for white balance. So, you know, I'm not impressed with it. It's an average quality camera, but it actually does pretty well for itself. As far as resolution, I haven't done any highlight, low light, shadow tests, or focus, bokeh, any of that stuff. I maybe in another video, if any of you are really worried about that, if you're buying the phone for the camera, don't. Go buy a camera. Spend your $400 on like a Canon Rebel or something like that, or maybe an entry-level Sony, or even a really good Kodak point and shoot would be better than this camera here. Not to say that this camera is bad, it's just that this is a cell phone, not a camera. So if you're buying the phone for the camera, don't do that. Go buy a camera instead. Now, if you just want something for snapshots, this will be fine. Okay? You can take this to your kid's birthday party all day long. It'll do okay. You will not be displeased. Button placements. Here again, we're still talking about the so-so stuff. So when I'm looking at how the buttons are placed on this, the PTT button forces you to hold the phone in a top-heavy position, but it also makes your voice bounce off your palm into the microphone opening, and it makes the sound from the speaker on the back bounce off your palm to come back at your face. So that kind of ergonomically works. I don't like it myself, but I understand if that's what they're trying to do here. They succeeded in that. But for me, that is how I want to hold what amounts to a CB radio microphone or a ham radio microphone. That's how I want to hold it. I want the PTT to be up here where the volume buttons are. I want the volume buttons to be over here where the power button is. And I want the power button to be up here on the top, where I have seen it on other devices. This button down here you can get rid of. I don't use it for anything. It's a shortcut button. You can assign it to an app, but really all you can do with this button, because this is not a custom ROM, okay, you can't go in and change your build prop or your keyboard layouts or anything like that. So because it's not a custom ROM and because it's not rooted, you don't have root on this thing, you cannot set that for anything other than launching an app. Wait, you mean like this? You know, launching an app. All I got to do is push a button. Oh, well, I push that button or I push that button. Who cares which button I push? Well, I care, because if I need a shortcut to an app, if I need the app to load up at a button press, I'll put it on my home screen. I don't need that button there. You can get rid of it. On that note, the home screen, this is not the screen that comes with the phone. This is Nova Launcher. I love Nova Launcher. I put it on every phone that I get. It's the first thing that I install. The second thing that I install is usually Open Camera by Mark Harmon. Those are the two apps that I always have on every phone that I've had in the past 5 years. Every custom ROM that I've put on a phone, those are the first two apps I load on it. Open Camera and Nova Launcher. But that's just, you know, clarifying that I'm not using the stock launcher on this. So things. Add one more to the list, the stock launcher. The battery charge speed is pretty slow unless you can get this thing to somehow mate up with this thing. I've got another video that shows how I do it, but I hate fast charge anyway. But that charger is the only way you're going to get fast charge on this phone, unless you've got one that supports the MediaTek, I think they call it Power Push, but if it's got to support the MediaTek processor in order for it to do a proper fast charge. And honestly, I have not seen any charger anywhere say outright that they do or do not support any particular processor type. So most of your chargers out there are going to be for a Qualcomm processor, because who doesn't have a Samsung or an iPhone? Who's going to have a MediaTek? I will. So I've got to have a special charger to fast charge it. Now to slow charge it, I can slow charge it overnight and no issues. Now here's the thing. When you fast charge the device, I don't know if you can see it on this. I don't know if you can see it on this, but the way that this does fast charge is by increasing the output voltage. The standard for USB is 5 volts, but in recent editions, you can do 9 volt or 12 volt, depending on the device. If your device supports handling 12 volts on that port, it can signal that to the charger, and the charger will deliver 12 volts. The battery, though, is only 3.85 volts, nominally. What that means is that when you're sitting here pushing 12 volts into it, you are charging it at over 3 times its actual nominal voltage. That will fast charge your battery. It will also kill it in time. If you want your battery to last, keep it around 50%. Now this is for lithium ions. Keep it around 50%, discharge it to around 30, charge it back up to around 70. That gives you a 40% range, 20 below, 20 above, 50. You keep the battery in that nice little sweet spot, it'll last you a long time. As far as longevity of the device, you want it to last a full week with light use. Go ahead and fully charge it up to 100%, and then just don't charge it until you kill it or whatever. But as far as, if you've got access to a charger on a nightly basis or a daily basis, slow charge it and just kind of hover that around 50% if you can, 60%, and your battery will last longer and your phone will thank you for it. So I'm not a fan of fast charge. I really do not care that this doesn't fit the American plug, because I've got so many other chargers that, granted, while they won't do a full-on fast charge, they will charge fast enough that I can put it on at night when I go to bed. When I wake up in the morning, it may not be 100%, but it'll be in the 90s, right? Most days. Sometimes it is 100%. Just depends on how much I use the phone the night before or the day before. All right, so charge speed could be better. But that's a function of it being a MediaTek, and that's a function of it needing to have a special charger. The radio, the two-way radio on it will discharge your battery. Just by having it running, it will discharge your battery, because it's sitting there constantly receiving. It's constantly listening for a signal on the airwaves. And if it doesn't get one, oh well, you're just simply draining your battery to listen for nothing. But anyone who has a radio, a real two-way radio, understands that. And that's why this is such a big battery, is so your radio doesn't kill it in 5 minutes. All right, so the battery charge speed could be better, so-so. The radio will drain the battery, but it's not too bad, so-so. Here are the 3 things that I really, 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 really hate about this phone. I don't have root. I don't have an easy way of doing an update to it. I either have to push it through fast boot or bootloader, or I have to get it over the air. And so far, I've checked several times, and there's no OTA available for it. The third thing is I can't really do too much with these little interface knickknacks. These little edits that I would normally hack up when I have root on a device, I don't have that here, so I don't have the option. I can move them around a little bit, I can remove a couple, but there are some that I have on the LG up here running Resurrection Remix that I don't have on this one. I wish I could do that, but I can't. It's not a big deal, but I do hate that I can't change that. I hate that I don't have that level of control over a device that I own. I am not a big, huge honkin' fan of this antenna. But I have to admit, I bought a replacement on Amazon, and the replacement was a nice, like 14-inch or so whip, maybe a 15-inch whip. And the dummy antennas that come with dummy antennas that come with a radio are notoriously awful. They simply do not perform well at all. And so any kind of a whip is going to be an improvement. Unfortunately, the whip that I bought was defective in some way, and given the brand name that it was and the price of $9, I didn't expect it to really work anyway. So I'm sending it back, and I'm going to be ordering a Nagoya, which is not the highest quality name brand, but it's inexpensive and it's recommended for cheap radios like the Baofeng. Now, what I did though, when I do get that antenna in, it's going to be an SMA antenna, just like this one is, but I don't like that connector. The antennas that I'm finding have like a flange around them, like a little shield, if you will, that prevents the antenna from going fully inserted into the SMA connector. This is a female connector. Yes, the threaded part does go in, but it's the center pin that you're looking at. This is a female, and this one here is a male. Now, makes little difference which end is which on this, but the antennas that go on that don't get the pin fully inserted into the center of the antenna when they have that little flange around the base. So what I've got to do is take an adapter or two or three, and depending on how they go, I'll adapt SMA to SMA through a BNC. And that is so inefficient. It's incredibly inefficient. I hate that I have to do that if I want to use an external antenna. The other option that I've got too, I've got a dump going on right here. I picked up about a 15-foot section of RG174 coax that has SMA female on one end and male on the other. So I always have that as an option. Screw that in and then put the antenna on the end of this. That works. So does using the adapter. It depends on what you're wanting to do, what you are willing to do. But in the sense of using this as a two-way radio and having a different antenna on it, you know, this is going to become kind of fragile, and you've also got extra connections. That's extra points of failure. Plus, it's less efficient. It's not ideal to have all of this stuff on here just so that you can get a different antenna. So I'm not a fan of that, and it's also pretty rigid. If I had another coax, like if I wanted to put a BNC on here to an external antenna, that BNC is going to weigh down this SMA connector. It would be nice to be able to just have a BNC on there right out. The BNC is a much stronger connector in the first place. I'm not afraid with a BNC of breaking it off or whatever, but you know, it suffices. And of course I can always use the coax if I'm worried about flexing it and, you know, torsional strain and whatnot. It's adequate, but it could be improved. There are things that could be done with it. I'm trying to think. I've got a list of things that I don't really like, and I've already touched on everything in the list, but there was something that popped into my head, and I can't remember it now. Oh yeah, the Intercom app itself. But I know that some of you, like me, bought this phone for the radio in it. The Intercom app sucks. I'm sorry. I'm going to do a whole video on this, but you're going to run into two problems with it. One, your PTT is going to activate. And that PTT button, oops, I shouldn't have done that because I just realized I've got a live radio here on 401 megahertz. That's not legal anywhere. Fortunately, I don't think it actually keyed up because I was only quickly pressing it. Let me change this to a different area. So here's, while I'm here, this is one of the things I hate about it. China FRS, China Taiwan FRS, EU FRS. Okay, great. I can just delete those. I get that. That's fine. I'm not too worried about that. But you know what? I'll save that for the next video that I do, because that's something that really is going to irk me. Now that I'm in US FRS, I don't mind. I'm looking at channel 1. Let me do channel 8. I know that is a low power and that is a fully on FRS channel. So this button is actually very sensitive. Sometimes it's got a great tactile response, but sometimes it activates without the tactile response being activated as well. So in other words, you can pick up the phone and not realize that you're activating the button. Now, when the phone is fresh out of the box and you activate that button accidentally, it's going to bring open this app. It's like a shortcut button, but it also doubles as your active push to talk. Now, if you want to disable that, and trust me, you do. Otherwise, this thing is going to be sitting there activating that radio all day long while you've got it in your pocket or every time you pick it up. You will be annoyed by that. The way to get rid of that, without fully disabling the button, mind you, you come into your settings, go all the way down here to System, go to About Phone, go all the way down here to Build Number, tap it 7 times. Now, I've already done this, but after you do it 7 times, you'll get the developer options. Go back 1 layer, there are your developer options right there. You hit that. Come on. There we go. Come on. There we go. Scroll all the way down to the bottom of developer options, and the top item on the bottom page is background check. Go into background check, and you'll find intercom there. Turn it off. What this is, background check, is all of the things that can happen in the background on your device, and one of those things is intercom. So pushing this button here, if you have it enabled here, it will open up the Intercom app. Now, this does not disable the button altogether. If I push this button right now, it is going to transmit. Even though I'm not in the app is running. You can see this little icon up here in the corner. That tells me the app is running, and if I push that button, it's going to transmit. Now, I could go grab my other FRS radio and prove it, but take my word for it. So that's how you disable the button from working when you're not in the app. As long as the app is running, the button will work. It will still transmit. You don't have to worry about that. Now, if you have the app running and you put it in your pocket, it will transmit while the button keeps getting accidentally pressed. So be aware of that. You cannot fully disable the button and still be able to use the app unless you want to, I don't know, use the soft button on there, because that's what everybody wants to do, is use a touchscreen device to all of their, and you know, if I'm talking on a two-way, I prefer a physical button, but that's me. So that's how you disable that button. That's one of the things that's going to annoy you if you're like me. So that's how you take care of that. Oh, my. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning now, and I don't have time to do another video, but I wanted to share this. I will do a video on just this app alone, because there's one major flaw in this app that really, pardon my French, it pisses me off when it happens. If you delete these areas, right, and you add a new area. Okay, I just deleted a couple, but if I were to go in here and add a new area and give it a new name, Willy Wonka perhaps. Oh, that actually is in the dictionary. Okay, here's Willy Wonka, and I go in here and I edit Willy Wonka. I can't use it until I add channels to it. So I'm just going to add a channel, and I'll call it Chocolate. Chocolatl. All right, send frequency 4000000, and that's going to be in the video. The video of all the things that I hate about the Intercom app, I will do that. All right, we hit check. Contact number cannot be Okay, let's just do analog. That way I don't need a contact number. All right, I now have an app in here, or not an app, a channel in here. Pardon me while I wet my throat. So this channel here, when I go in and I select that, well, first off, I have to select Willy Wonka and tell it to use it, and then I'll go back and I'll go over here to channel, and I'm using that channel already. Okay, great. Why does it still say USA FRS, and it still shows transmit and receive at 467? I've already told it to use Willy Wonka and chocolate, and it's even got chocolate selected here. So what's going on? Here it says Willy Wonka, and it shows me transmit and receive on 400 megahertz. But when I drop it down, it still says USA FRS with the channel 8 frequencies up there. That bugs me. Now, the other thing that'll happen is after you add a couple of channels, it'll say, oh, sorry, we can't init that, try later. And then you'll exit the app and you'll go back into the app and it'll say, can't initialize the radio, try again. You won't be able to initialize the radio at that point. At that point, you've done messed up, as my coworker is fond of saying. At that point, you have to delete the data for the app, and you wind up going back to stock, and then all those hours that you spent typing in manually all of the little frequencies for the repeaters in your area, you get to do it all over again. Isn't that fun? There's no way to back up the data. There's no way to restore the data. It's just gone. That is a major fail on Blackview's part. And the thing is this is a one-of-a-kind app. This is one-off. You cannot get this app on the Play Store. You cannot get an app like this on Play Store. If you look for a push-to-talk app, you're going to get Zello, which, of course, goes over the network, not over the airwaves. So it is what it is. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do a whole video on this app because this app is full of things that I hate. It's unfortunate because this app is primary to the number one reason I bought this phone. I am hoping beyond hope. I am praying that Blackview will come up with a better app. I'm hoping that this is not the only phone that they ever put this radio in. I'm hoping they continue to make these kind of phones because this app needs to be developed. It has so much potential. It has so much room for improvement. If only they'll take advantage of that. Anyway, it is 2 o'clock, and like I said, I'll do that in another video another time. I got to get this one saved and uploaded, but you know what? Give me another couple of days, and I'll have a video on the two-way radio app. Until then, stay tuned. I am CJ, your local friendly technology addict, and this has been the Tech Addict's Attic. Good night.